The title of this video is Court Reporters, Your Best Friend or Your Worst Enemy. The number one asset that a litigator has with a judge is credibility. You want the judge to look at you as a competent advocate, and when you prepare an order, they want to just be able to sign it and know that you know what you're doing. To do that, you have to be excellent at writing. You have to be organized. You have to be prepared. You have to be a good cross-examiner. But you need to know how to make a record. And this is true of both lawyers and witnesses. And many times, lawyers do not go into detail with their witnesses how court reporters work and how to create a good record. And the judge is ultimately in charge of the record and making sure that it's clean. And the court reporters don't like to interrupt. And when someone is making a poor record, it angers the judge. And in fact, if the court reporter thinks that you're a buffoon and don't know what you're doing, it's 100% certain that the judge does as well. So I'd like to put a shout out to a fine professional and a friend, Donna Scott, who's been in the court reporting business for decades and decades and decades. And I really wish when I were in law school that I had had a court reporter there to judge how I put on my examination and how I was doing with respect to the court reporter. I was in a deposition within the last 10 days, and I went to our court reporter, Mavis, and I said, how would you grade our deposition? And she said, A+. It was so much better than other depositions that I had. Well, I was doing the questioning and I was able to control it. And I said from the very beginning, we're going to go 70%. We're not going to talk over each other. And this is a friendly deposition to the extent there is such a thing. And as a Zoom deposition proceeds, the court reporter has no chance if two people are talking at the same time, because it becomes completely gibberish. So Donna Scott was kind enough to respond to my question of, well, what would you tell advocates? And I know a lot of people that have been practicing law for years or decades that have never once spoken to a court reporter about how to be more effective. And if your record is terrible, you're going to lose cases. You're going to lose credibility with the judge. And when the magic moment comes to lay out the impeaching cross-examination, when your record's not there, it's not there. Here's what Donna said in response to how an attorney can make the court reporter's job more effective. Send the reporter a notice of deposition with the service list. If it's a big case, send a PDF or prior transcript that'll help the court reporter with spellings. If you have an unusual name, stop right then and get the spelling, because they need to check that. Speak clearly and enunciate. Don't go so fast you can't be understood. You can set the tone for all speakers in the room. Very few litigators know to slow down. When you have a gap after a question, it allows the court reporter to catch up. Slow down when reading from a document. I can't tell you the number of 30-year, 20-year attorneys I've seen in court with a court reporter that go to 1.5 speed when they're reading from a document. You have to consciously slow down. Here's Donna again. We are not machines. We need breaks. if you go for 2 hours without a break, imagine playing the piano or typing fast for that long. Your back and shoulders and wrists need a break, not to mention your brain. You need to check with the court reporter when you go to lunch, and you need to have a rapport when the court reporter needs a break. Donna again. Remember, while the other people in the room only need to get the gist of what's said, the reporter must get every single word, every syllable. Don't assume that a reporter can pick it up later from audio. Be civil and professional. A little kindness goes a long way, and you can get more out of a witness. With less fighting and speaking over each other, the reporter's job is easier. It's impossible to get a clear record with everyone speaking at once, especially in Zoom, where words are just lost. You will meet what I call the Perry Mason attorney that wants to show themselves as a tough person, and they will interrupt. They will interrupt the questions, they'll interrupt the answers, they'll speak over people, they'll raise their voices. And they think they're being tough and smart. What they're doing is they're looking like an idiot that doesn't know how to make a record. And judges sometimes hate one lawyer, and sometimes they hate both lawyers. And you don't want to be the lawyer that is looked at as not knowing how to create a record. Donna again, don't go off on tangents that have nothing to do with the case and drag the depo on for hours. You will be baited. Well, counsel, what about that discovery request we have? And they will start asking you questions. They will try to get you to not go on the record to ask questions. And there's only one response for this tactic. And that's like, I'm respecting the court reporter's time. I'm going to ask questions, and we can deal with that when we're not on the record. As Donna points out, quote, remember that for every hour you're in depo, it takes a reporter another 2 to 3 hours to prepare a transcript. So you're paying for the transcript, you're burdening the court reporter on things that aren't really the depo. We don't press a button and a transcript magically appears. If you want a rough draft, let the reporter know ASAP. Or if you need a completed transcript, don't tell us the night before. When conducting a proceeding on Zoom, be sure you have a good mic and internet connection and are not sitting in a room that echoes. On Zoom, learn how to screen share your exhibits instead of asking the reporter to upload and scroll through the exhibits. Most of all, be record conscious. If someone is answering a question, don't keep interrupting saying, right, uh-huh. Remember, the reporter is writing everything. Be concise. Don't clutter the record by saying perfect, which young attorneys do all day after every single answer, or all right after every single question. Speak as though you're a public speaker and don't be sloppy. Remember, your reporter is your team player. The reporter will keep track of where you are with the exhibits, usually. They will tell you when you misspeak. Keep your sense of humor. The day will go smoothly and more relaxed if there's some camaraderie with others in the room, including the reporter. There was much more of that 40 years ago. The truth of the matter is that as a client, you want to understand how a court reporter works, and you want to observe your attorney, because unless your attorney knows how to create a record, they're not going to be in the litigation business very long or very successfully.